Captain Jack of the Earth Diplomatic Corps stood before the assembled dignitaries from 7 different galactic civilizations. Their first official interspecies banquet was about to begin, and he couldn't help but notice the mix of curiosity and apprehension on the aliens' faces, or what passed for faces among the more unusual species. "Welcome, honored guests," Jack announced. "Tonight we present a sampling of Earth cuisine. We hope you find it educational." The Meldari ambassador, a tall being with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms, leaned toward his aide. "I've read concerning reports about human consumption habits," he whispered. "They ingest substances that would kill most sentient species." His aide, whose name translated roughly to gem, nodded slowly. "They're omnivores who consume both plants and animals. And they add chemicals to enhance flavor." "Barbaric," the ambassador muttered. "Fascinating, but barbaric." Across the room, the delegation from Procyon Vi, resembling upright mantises with gleaming exoskeletons, clicked their mandibles anxiously. Their cultural attaché, Reed, had spent weeks studying human dietary customs and still felt unprepared. "They'd ferment grain until it becomes toxic, then drink it for pleasure," Reed explained to his companions. "They call it beer and wine and consider it celebratory." The servers began bringing out the first course, a simple salad with a vinaigrette dressing. The human delegates dug in enthusiastically, while their extraterrestrial counterparts observed with a mixture of horror and intrigue. The Xilni representative, a gelatinous being named Dot, who communicated through color changes, pulsed orange with alarm as she watched humans pour the vinegar-based dressing onto their greens. They'd willingly consume acid. Dot signaled, her translucent body flashing warning colors. Their biochemistry must be extraordinarily robust. Next came a bread basket with various earth-baked goods. The Tyrellian diplomat, a reptilian creature called Blink, cautiously picked up a croissant, sniffing it with his forked tongue. "It contains butter, a substance derived from the mammary secretions of another species," Blink hissed quietly to his delegation. "Humans heat process it first, of course, but the concept remains disturbing." "They add a fungus to make it rise," added his science officer. "They cultivate microorganisms specifically to alter their food." As the main courses arrived, the alien representatives grew increasingly astonished. Plates of pasta, grilled fish, roasted vegetables, and steak were presented with flourish. The Andorian delegate, whose crystalline body structure required minerals rather than organic matter for sustenance, leaned forward to examine the human food with analytical interest. "They apply intense heat to denature proteins and caramelize sugars," she observed to her companion. "They call it cooking and claim it improves both safety and flavor." Her colleague, Spark, vibrated slightly in agreement. "They appear to enjoy the process of destroying certain molecular structures while creating new compounds. It's almost alchemical in nature." The Meldari ambassador cautiously tried a piece of bread, his face contorting in surprise. "It contains sodium chloride, a literal poison to many species." Captain Jack noticed the commotion and approached the Meldari table. "Is everything to your liking, Ambassador?" "You season your food with salt," the ambassador stated, both accusatory and impressed. Jack smiled. "We do. Our bodies actually require it in small amounts. I understand your species finds it overwhelming." "Not just overwhelming, it would kill us in sufficient quantities," the ambassador responded. "Yet you sprinkle it on your food like decoration." The evening's true shot came with dessert. The human servers brought out chocolate cake, ice cream, and coffee. The room fell silent as the extraterrestrial guests stared at the offerings. Reed, the Procyon cultural attaché, emitted a series of alarmed clicks. The brown substance contains theobromine and caffeine, both toxic compounds. And the frozen cream is deliberately contaminated with sucrose levels that would induce metabolic shock in most species, added Dot, pulsing deep purple with concern. Captain Jack stood to address the startled gathering. "I understand our culinary choices may seem extreme. What's poison to some is pleasure to others. Humans have evolved to not only tolerate but enjoy substances that would harm other species." The Tyrellian diplomat Blink flicked his tongue thoughtfully. "Your species consumes capsaicin, a compound plants evolved specifically to prevent consumption for entertainment. We call it spicy, Jack confirmed with a grin. Some humans compete to see who can tolerate the most. The room buzzed with amazed conversation. The Andorian delegate approached Jack, her crystalline form glinting under the banquet lights. "Your species' adaptability is remarkable," she said. "You've turned survival mechanisms into art forms. Where others evolved to avoid these substances, you've embraced them." By the end of the evening, several of the braver alien representatives had cautiously sampled human-safe versions of Earth cuisine. The Meldari ambassador found he enjoyed bread, minus the salt. The Proteans were intrigued by the concept of cooking, though they couldn't partake. As the banquet concluded, the extraterrestrial diplomats gathered to discuss this new perspective on humanity. They consumed compounds that would kill most species. Dot signaled, her body now a contemplative blue. Not out of necessity, but choice. "Perhaps this explains their rapid expansion through the galaxy," suggested Blink. "A species that consumes poison for pleasure would naturally fear very little." Reed clicked in agreement. "They are more resilient than we anticipated. Their tolerance for extremes extends beyond their diets." Captain Jack overheard as he passed by and smiled to himself. The diplomatic mission was succeeding better than expected. Sometimes the most effective way to earn the galaxy's respect wasn't through displays of technology or military might, but through a simple meal that demonstrated just how extraordinarily tough